This is where you start paying your dues. Suddenly the whole audience erupted. My heart was beating so fast. Hello my Fabaret family, how are you? Mwah. If you're new here to Fabaret, by the way, hello, my name is Richard and I love all things to do with theatre, music, performance, all that jazz. So if that's your scene, press that subscribe button and join the Fabaret family. Yay! So my lovely Fab fam, my videos for the next few weeks are actually going to be a bit different. Normally I go on about reviews or reacting or what's going on in theatre land. These next few videos are going to be a bit more personal. Now, some of you may know, some of you may not know, but I was actually on Britain's Got Talent. Britain's Got Talent is going to be starting in April, and from then it'll be 6 years since I was on the show. And I thought now would be a really good time to look back at all of the experiences I had. Now, I just want to start off by saying that I already have a video uploaded about my X Factor experience. My X Factor experience was definitely a lot more intense and dramatic and emotional, and I just want to start by saying that my time on Britain's Got Talent, or BGT, was very different to my X Factor experience. And I'm not going to lie, some things that happened on BGT were very emotional as well, but there were highs as well as lows. So the plan is at the minute, I'm going to divide these videos up into 3 parts. Part 1 today is going to be talking about all of the pre-auditions experience I had leading up to my main big experience. Part 2 will focus on my big audition day, and part 3 will be looking at my semi-final and the results and everything that happened in the aftermath of that. Now, I can't even remember why I decided to audition for Britain's Got Talent. It just felt at the time like it was the show that was most my type of person and that I would suit for most. I love the concept that any act, any age can audition, everyone's welcome, and for me that just felt so accepting. Now the first thing to point out is that it's not just like, hey, you can just wander in off the street, come onto stage, be filmed in front of loads of people in Simon Cowell and do your talent and great, you become famous overnight. That's not what happens at all. There's so much work you have to do just to get to that point. But the first step in the process is filling out the application. And if you're lucky, from that little online application, you get to go to a producer's audition. And the first producer's audition I went to was on Halloween of 2010. I had a little snippet on the telly in 2014 and full auditions in 2016. I auditioned for the producers 6 years in a row. I actually filmed a little bit of my very first experience going to those auditions, those producers' auditions, so I'm going to show you a bit of that now. 8:30 and I'm here. There's not much of a queue in front of me. Oh, there we go. So I'll be in pretty soon, I think. I've just finished my audition. It went really, really well. I'm not going to find out until February if I've got through or not, which sucks. But they wanted me to only sing a verse and a chorus. Well, I was supposed to only sing a verse and a chorus, but the producer wanted me to sing all of the song. How mint is that? And they wanted to keep me behind for an interview. That was really exciting. I remember the first year I went up, I had to get a bus, and it was a Sunday that the auditions were happening in Manchester, and I had to get up at 3 in the morning to be on a bus at the station at 4:30, and this was after a Saturday night out, and I didn't even think about this. There was me all dressed up in my gorgeous first shirt and everything. I was listening to my song, getting myself mentally focused at 4:30 in the morning, and all these drunken lads come onto the bus when we stop at Leeds, going back up to Manchester. And they're all like, "Way, everyone had a good night, way." And I was just like, this is where you start paying your dues. And then what I remember particularly about my first ever time that I went was that I had to be there to queue up at 8 AM or something. And I didn't actually get seen until mid-afternoon. It's actually a really long day. If you ever go to one of these producers auditions for Britain's Got Talent, it might say, oh, you'll only be there for about an hour. You need to put the whole day aside. So it was 3 years in a row of me going to these producers' auditions, and as I went every year, I learnt more about the process. I learnt more about how I could stand out from the crowd. They put you together in circles with other people who were performing, and you'd all talk and stuff. And I remember one year there was a mum and a daughter who were there very early in the morning, same time as me, checking in and everything. And after we'd been there for about an hour, the mum just said, we're going to have to go. We thought we were going to be seen at the time when we turned up. We're just going to have to go. Now, I can totally get that because people have, lives. You have things to do. Life isn't all about Britain's Got Talent and television. But my first thought was, how badly do you want this? Like when you see those massive opening shots of everyone, they try to make it look as if you're waiting backstage to perform, but actually those are shots of everyone waiting in the big hall rooms at the producers' auditions. And Manchester Central Complex, which is where I had to go to each year, it was huge. But it was also so wonderful because you saw such a variety of people there, people in different costumes, different ages, different acts. And I think that was part of one of the reasons why I enjoyed so much going to it every year. So to give you a timeline, right, Halloween 2010, that was when I first auditioned for the producers, and that was with the intent of getting onto the 2011 series, which was series 5, and that was when it was David Hasselhoff, Michael McIntyre and Amanda Holden as judges. So the second year when I went back and they announced they had a whole new lineup, that was the first year they had David Williams, Alicia Dixon, Amanda Holden and Simon Cowell. So 3 years go by of producers' auditions and I never hear anything. They always say to me, we'll let you know by February what's going on. And I was like, okay, I'll know by February. Nothing would ever happen by February. And then the show would start up airing on telly about April time. And I'd be like, well, okay, it's obvious I didn't get through because, I haven't heard anything. So year 4 comes round and this is in like October, November time, 2013. And this was the year where things started to change. So I went in to the producers' auditions, sang my song, which that year was La Cage aux Folles, I Am, I Am. And that was the first year that I really geared up on the glitter sparkle aspect of my act. I really went to town on it. They called me on my mobile. It was about end of November, early December, and I was in the middle of a youth theatre session. So I was helping to teach kids youth theatre at the time as well. And I got a call and it was from like an unknown number. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I've just got to nip out the room for a sec. And it was a call from like a researcher saying, congratulations, you've been shortlisted to potentially go in front of the judges. And I remember just screaming the place down. And when I came back into the room, all the little kids who were like 6, 7 years old were like, well, what's going on? And I was like, oh, I just got some really good news. And of course I couldn't really say anything because they said to me on the phone, make sure you do not tell anyone. And then after you get that phone call, you get the massive form to fill out. This is a form which is about 15, 20 pages. Easy, and it goes through every aspect of your life. Everything. You have to go into fine detail about it all, and by the end of it, it feels like a bit of a mental workout, to be honest. And then I had to send off that form, and they said to me, this is still not a guarantee you're going to get in front of the judges on stage on the telly. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, understood, no problem. And then they started asking me for song choices about what I would sing and backup songs, things like that. And normally they ask you for at least more than one song, just in case of like copyright, or if the judges don't like what you've done, you've got some more songs prepared. So I filled in this massive form, and then I didn't hear anything back, and it got to about mid-January, and I thought to myself, do you know what? I haven't heard anything. Probably hasn't happened. Oh well, still had a great experience. But then I get an email saying, congratulations, you've been chosen to perform in front of Simon, Amanda, Alicia and David, and I was so excited. They only gave me a few days notice though, so I do sometimes wonder if maybe another act dropped out and I was a replacement or plan B, I don't know, but who cares? This was my chance. Now my audition was going to be up in Manchester at the Lowry Theatre, which can hold about 1,500, 2,000 people, so it was a really big deal. I remember doing Britain's Got More Talent with Stephen Mulhern, and when they had me waiting outside a room to go in to talk to Stephen, I was pacing up and down. I had to keep myself busy. Even if it was just walking, that was fine. If I'd had a pedometer that day, it would have been on like 40,000 steps by the end of the day. And I remember one of the researchers saying to me, you just don't stop, do you? And I was like, no. And then I remember there was a lot of waiting around. There was lots of like shots of, oh, you need to sit there, you need to look nervous, or, we need to interview for this or for that. Obviously, it was all very controlled. And it got to the point where it was my turn to go out on stage. And I had no idea what was going to happen. I generally thought I was going to get a sound rehearsal or a sound check or something beforehand. And so I got on stage and Simon's not there. So what happened was Simon Cowell was late for some reason, and so they just started the auditions without him. So for quite a bit of the day, it had been Amanda, Alicia and David on the panel. So I get on stage, everyone's cheering, and in my head I think, oh my God, this is amazing. This has been 3.5 years I've been waiting to try and get to this point. So the judges start talking to me. I can't even remember any of the questions or anything. It was all so surreal. And I remember a minute into me chatting to them, suddenly the whole audience erupted and they were cheering because Simon just walked through the door and walked down to his seat. Now, I don't know if that was something they'd done intentional. I don't know if they said, oh, it'd be funny to try and get this on camera with sort of like Simon Cowell interrupting my audition. But I was just like, okay, let's go with this. And I remember someone from backstage saying to me, oh, do you want to go off and come back on again? And I was like, no, I'm fine. Looking back, I don't know if I would have preferred that Simon wasn't there. But if you're going to go for one of these kind of talent show competitions, you want to do it in front of Simon Cowell, don't you? You want to get the full experience. I remember that being the first year as well that they had the golden buzzers on. So if one of the judges pressed the golden button, that would send that act straight through to the semi-finals. And that was another reason why I wore a gold sparkly shirt. I had gold shoes on, which were actually the same gold shoes I wore to my X Factor Wembley Arena audition earlier that year. Was I nervous? I was absolutely terrified. I remember the floor of the stage being so shiny and I was really worried I was going to slip in these shoes that I had on. And I remember standing next to Anton Deck backstage, and you hear all these jokes about how short they are, and especially with Deck, he was tiny. So we have a little bit of chat. It's obvious to Simon that, he doesn't like me. So I sang La Cage aux Folles, I Am What I Am. I remember singing and the audience swaying their arms and everything, and they were really enjoying it. Simon buzzed me quite quickly, which wasn't a total shock. And then I remember Simon trying to buzz Amanda Holden's buzzer, who loves musical theatre. And then everyone seemed to get involved with this thing, and I'm trying to sing and remember the word, and there's all this chaos going on out front with David and Amanda and everyone fighting over their buzzers, and I was like, this is just so weird. But at the end, I got a really great cheer, and it felt wonderful. Then I remember the comments starting. Now, what's interesting is that when they showed this all on telly, I only had about a 45-second clip, so it's a very edited down audition. And Simon says something along the lines of, it kind of feels like what would happen if, you're at a wedding and someone comes out of a cake singing. And in my head, I was like, yeah, what's wrong with that? What I should have said at the time was, what's wrong with that? Everybody loves cake. So David, Amanda and Alicia, they all say yes to me. Simon says no, and so I get through. And I remember I kind of fell down to the floor a little bit because I was just so happy and excited to have gotten through. It just felt incredible to finally get through, and I went off stage in a total sense of euphoria. I felt amazing. I felt special. I felt like all the hard work was worth it, and I felt like I was doing something right. And then what happened about 3 weeks later, we're about early mid-February, is I get a phone call saying, hi, you've been chosen to come down to London to be part of the next stage of the competition, which is where you find out if you're through to the semi-finals or not. So at this point, there was about 200 acts that had all gotten through, and they had to cut it down to about 40 or 45, I think it was. My experience of that time between the initial first audition in front of the judges and that day of finding out if you're through to the semi-finals or not, that gap of time in between, it was very different for me the first time round in comparison to the second time round. So I get down to London in February 2014, and I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it was this really super posh hotel. And they'd done the semi-final reveal who's through and who's not at this quite posh hotel for the last couple of years now. And what they did is they divided us into groups of 4 acts, and then you heard people going in one by one. Now, this is a very short version of it. Obviously on the day there was lots of sitting around, and they had people in seats talking to each other, being filmed, saying, are you nervous? How much do you want to get through? And I'm not going to lie to you, I went down there so optimistic, really, really hoping that I was going to get through, thinking, I deserve this. I've been working hard at this, coming to these auditions for 3 years. Please, let this be my time. And what was quite fun, right? On the day, I met Lucy Kay and Calabro. And Lucy Kay, who's like an opera singer, she ended up coming second, and Calabro won the whole thing. So I get put into a group with 3 other acts, and we are all definitely the sort of quite wacky acts, I think is the right way to say it. Everyone's got bright clothes on, lots of makeup, we're all chaps in very funny, silly outfits. And they kept us in this holding room, and they brought them up the stairs into this fancy room with the judges in groups of 4 acts by 4 acts. And you could actually hear screams from people when they were getting through, which is obviously lovely to hear, but then that meant, oh, that means there's less spaces left for us to potentially get a spot. So they got shots of us going up the stairs, and this is probably the hardest bit of, sorry, yeah. it's really hard reminiscing about this bit. So they get us filming our group going up the stairs. I think we were about the 8th or 9th group to go in. And I was at the front. I was like leading the set of 4. So they were giving us all these instructions about, right, when you go in, you're going to see tape on the floor for like number 1, 2, make sure you get to your points. My heart was beating so fast. And I remember walking into the room and the 4 judges are there. And you don't get to speak to any of them at all, like outside of any time off camera. Like, so, you know, I'd spoken to them for about the grand total of 1.5 minutes back in January. And then we were at this point. So I remember walking in, I could see the cameras following all of us, and I was so nervous. They had different judges revealed to the group each time who got through and who hadn't gone through. And then David looks as if he's about to tell us whether we're through or not. And then suddenly you see this producer at the side put like his hand up or something, and there's literally like a 30-second wait. It was only about 30 seconds, but it felt an eternity. And this producer puts his hand down, and then suddenly David says, "I'm so sorry." And you can see it in my reaction. I thought it was maybe like a trick answer. You know, something like they do when they say, "I'm so sorry, you're gonna have to go home to work on your acts." You know, that kind of thing. And it wasn't. He said, "I'm so sorry, you haven't made it through." And you can see it. I just go like, okay, yeah. And it was weird because initially it was like, I'm accepting it so quickly, which was so weird. I think I built it up so much, and suddenly, bam, reality just hit back in. And then they actually showed my bit on telly of me talking to Ant and Dec about how gutted I was. And I was really gutted. I was heartbroken. I felt like that was it. That was my experience all over. It was never going to happen again. I was never going to get that far. And this is quite sweet, actually. The same psychologist who was there on my X Factor Wembley Arena day when I was breaking down, proper backstage breaking down, she was there on that day as well. And she spotted me and she came over to say hello. And this was before we started going into the rooms to find out if we were through or not. They must have known, obviously, beforehand there was going to be a no for me. So I think they had to prepare for that just in case I had a complete emotional breakdown again. And I'm actually quite proud of myself that I didn't have an emotional breakdown. Of course I was sad. Of course I was gutted, but it was nowhere near the intense emotion that happened at X Factor. So that all happened in February, and then the show started airing in April. And at this point, when the show started airing, I had no idea if they were going to show my audition. What happened was they had a few very blink and you miss it moments where I was talking to people or looking excited backstage. And then it was only about 4 or 5 days before the episode aired that they messaged me to say, "Oh, Richard, just so you know, we're going to be showing a bit of your audition in this Saturday show." I think for some reason the start time of the show got delayed because there was a massive football game going on. I can't remember what the football game was, but I was so frustrated. I was like, God, if I didn't hate football enough already, do you know what I mean? You are stopping people from seeing my television debut. So that was my BGT 2014 Series 8 experience. And overall, it was okay. I think the only problem was I built myself up so much thinking, this is it, this is my moment, that when it did happen and I didn't get through to the semi-finals, I was finding it really hard. And what happened was I went back straight away to like the October, November 2014 producers auditions in prep for BGT Series 9. And I remember going to those auditions thinking, I was on the telly last year, made it on a little bit. I am so going to get through to the semi-finals this year because, you know, they'll have this amazing story now about how I didn't get through, but I persevered and I've come back. And yeah, I didn't even make it to the telly auditions that year. And then when I started preparing for year 6 of producers auditions, I said to myself, right, this is it. I'm going to put everything into this. And if it doesn't happen this year, then I'm going to call it quits because I just don't think I can take this anymore. Well, my Fab Fam, there we go. That is all the gossip I have for you about everything leading up to my full BGT experience in 2016. Next week, I'll be bringing you all that juicy gossip. But I just felt it was really important for you guys to know how much happened before that year and how much work I put in and how much I've been trying. Well, that's it for me this week, my lovely Fab Fam. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye!